You are listening to the Sports Rundown.
Well, first off, if you listen to the last episode,
ain't gonna be stopped
with Moose Tip and AZ. The show starts now.
And we're live.
Yo, what's up? What's going down? We are back. We've been out and about these last couple of months, but we're back. It's AZ and also my boy over there
At Moose Tip. What's going on, everybody?
We're just chilling, man. How's your summer been?
Well, not a lot has happened in the world of sports, which is why we took a break. No, that's not true. A lot went down, but everybody's out for the summer, so we thought we'd take a little bit of a breather. But boy, certainly a good time to get back into the swing of things and catch ourselves up on everything in and around the world of sports, and looking forward to what's coming up in the fall. So what you got, AZ?
We've had so much sports, from the Women's World Cup, the ladies taking the third World Cup in their history, and the USA ladies. The USA men coming up short and really disappointing in the Gold Cup. Mexico, though be it with a lot of controversy, wins the Gold Cup. And then we go to the NBA, and we had Steph Curry taking care of business and beating our boy LeBron. And I say our boy mockingly because he's not. And hey man, did you hear about this? Apparently there's going to be a Space Jam 2, and it's going to have LeBron.
No, are you serious?
That's what I've been hearing. That's what's been going on. If you fans that are out there listening to us, if you know the story about this, let us know on our Facebook or our Twitter. Message us and let us know if this is true, because this is what I've been hearing for a while now. And I'll tell you what, I am not excited about that. Nope. I could really do without any more LeBron in my life.
Well, I haven't had his new Sprite yet. I know I said I'd try it, and every time I go to the store, I haven't seen it. I did try this new flavor that they had. It's kind of like that Sprite remix from a couple years back, but I haven't had LeBron Sprite yet.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure.
And I didn't know that Shaq has his own soda as well.
What is?
I think we mentioned that in a previous episode before.
Shaq has
but
his
a
own
friend of
soda?
mine. Yeah, a friend of mine told me that she was in California, I think, and she had Shaq's soda, and my question was if it made her sound like Shaq, and she said no, but she felt a little taller.
Really?
I don't think that it had any effect on her whatsoever, and maybe perhaps the LeBron drink will
It was the
make her feel taller.
Was the drink called Crush? Oh, what? I mean, tell her it's already been out there. It's not,
Well,
it's not.
I guess LeBron should have called his Sprite drink Choke.
Damn!
Yep,
I was reading for
'cause he choked.
LeBron.
Yeah, I know you were, which was, I mean, it caused a lot of havoc, last show when we were here. But I mean, you had your reasons why you were rooting for LeBron. But
Lesser of two evils.
But I mean, tell us what happened. I know you were on the FCC. You were following some updates. What was going on there? We heard some complaints came out.
I'm not even sure. I didn't see this, obviously.
Obviously, we're both blind here, so.
Well, but when it happened, I never really heard a lot of controversy about it,
Right.
Like during the Super Bowl in 2004 when Janet Jackson's thing happened, it was everywhere, and it was, oh my God, and all of a sudden we're all squeamish. It wasn't like this, so, and I couldn't tell you which game it was, but it was during the finals where while they're, I don't know if they just finished the anthem, whatever it is, the entire team is standing courtside, and they're all in a row, and LeBron is adjusting himself, and the camera caught, I'm not sure how much, but it caught a glimpse of his package. I'm trying to keep it PC. And the only reason I found out is because this week the FCC released some of the complaints that were filed. It wasn't that many. I want to say it was just 10 complaints.
So you're saying that the greatest package in the world was not so because it didn't have that many complaints?
Maybe it was so because it didn't have so many complaints.
What?
The funniest one that I came across was the first complaint. Somebody was suing or wanted to sue the NBA and LeBron James himself because the fact that happened ruined her date. She was on her way to a mini golf date, and they were just kind of watching the game before they left. And when that happened, they kept rewinding and rewinding and rewinding, so they ended up missing their date, and it ruined the night. And because of that, they want to get paid. And I'm thinking, if you have a DVR, why not just pause the thing and come back to it?
We are the land of the lawsuits. So what are you going to do about that, man? Yeah, well, look at that. LeBron making news. The world's greatest player. And now is trying to show off his, what he would like to call the world's greatest package, right? So I guess
well,
that's
I mean, I guess if you can't win on the court, you know.
You gotta win somewhere else. I mean, we're really coming into to our own here with this summertime, and you can feel it out there with the heat and no rain in sight for anybody here in South Texas, East Texas. We got preseason about to start, training camp just kicking off. What has been, looking back at this summer, what has been your biggest story of the summer?
I would have to say whether or not there was collusion between players to try to get max deals, because of course the market value is set by the best player. So there's a lot of complaints between how certain contracts have been pieced together.
Right, and that was, the Cowboys were involved in that, in the contracts, because they were waiting on the two players that hadn't signed that were threatening not to play was Des Bryant and Demaryius Thomas, and the Cowboys were named in that complaint because they were talking to the Broncos about, well, how much are you going to give them? It looked like, well, how much are you going to give them? Well, how much are you going to give them? You know, and so, and at the end of the day, it came out to be like the same. I mean, it was, you know, the same contract pretty much. So that was kind of weird. I think there's going to be repercussions there.
Aside from that, I'm pretty upset that we're still talking about Deflategate and all this nonsense. And just today, now it comes out that Roger Goodell will uphold the penalty that he levied down on Tom Brady back in March. That said that he would be kept from playing 4 games, the first 4 games, as well as a huge fine. And of course, they have the bye week after those 4 games, so those are 5 weeks that Tom Brady would not play. And it's looking now that Tom Brady is going to seek legal action with the Players Association against the NFL. So this might drag on into the first weeks of the season. I really hope it doesn't. Obviously, I'm a Patriots fan, and everybody that listens to this show knows that. But beyond that, like, I really don't like it when we get distracted from talking about the sport itself, the teams, the new players, trades and re-signings and all that, and we're talking about this nonsense. I understand that a lot of people think that it hurt the sport, but to me it's not the first incident that we'll have, and it won't be the last. And I think that we saw one of the greatest Super Bowls ever recently, and we didn't even talk about how awesome that game was. We talked about the blown call, sure, but we still kept talking about Deflategate, and I'm ready to move past it, and I'm ready for something else.
You know what's really disappointing about that? The fact that for a second year in a row, it's gonna be the NFL and talking about court and talking about situations that are going on outside of the football field. And we're not talking about how Tom Brady is getting prepared for the first game. We're talking about how Tom Brady is going to fight this in order to be able to play in those first 5 weeks. So it's really disappointing. Last year we had the Ray Rice situation, and it played out all through August and everything. So, I mean, that is what's most disappointing. And to me, the only person to blame or the only entity to blame is the NFL. why do you take so long to come out and say what the verdicts are? If we know how they're going to be played out, I don't understand why it took so long and why they waited till the first day when training camp is about to start. It just seemed really drug out, and like you said, we're just tired of hearing about it. It just seems like Goodell's just loves the spotlight during this time and really doesn't like to give it up to anybody else.
Well, how about this, my man? One story that broke out within the last couple of days, the NFL now has its first female coach, a special teams and linebacker coach for the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm seeing a lot of people with mixed feelings about this, as we tend to see, we are a polarized nation, whether it's sports or politics, religion, or heck, even who has the best burgers. So I'm seeing half of the people say, well, it's awesome and it's great and hooray for women's rights. And I'm also seeing people say, no, I don't think any of these players are going to take any direction from somebody who didn't play on the same level as them. And I don't see it turning out well. And then there I see people in the middle that say it's a good thing, but they worry that she's not going to get the same treatment. And if she is treated in the same ways as some of these players treat their coaches, with insults, profanity, or even sometimes a little bit of violence, what's going to happen there? And so it becomes, does she really want the same treatment as a man would get? And if she gets it, is it fair? So there's a lot of things to consider, but what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts initially is just like anybody else. This is great news. This is a step forward. We actually were talking about this earlier in our shows about how the NFL was going to make an effort to really involve more women. And I think we have the referee, and then now they took it a step up, and now I got a coach. Well, do I think it'll be successful? I don't know, because it's never happened before. So I don't know how guys are going to take this. You have guys that will probably be very receptive to it, and you have guys that won't. But you have that situation with any head coach, and it's going to be up to her. I don't think at the end of the day you can just put this on the players and say, well, it's their fault she failed. I think that as a head coach and just as a leader, you have to be able to form your message in order to reach the majority of people, and that being for her team. So we'll see how that goes, man. It's going to play out here in the preseason, and hopefully we get a chance to follow that closely. And ultimately the team, the organization that this goes back to is the San Antonio Spurs, because they really got this going in the NBA, of course, by getting that female ref, and then the Spurs signing Becky Hammon as their assistant coach, and Becky Hammon leading the Summer League Spurs, as because the NBA always has this Summer League in Las Vegas, leading them to the championship. And that was all Becky, and so you look at it, and this is great for women, yes, but at the same time you have individuals in place right now that seem to, at least the ones that we've been able to observe, that seem to be able to handle the stress and all the situations just fine. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how it goes.
I don't know much about her, but I looked her up online and I saw that she spent 14 years playing in arena football and indoor football leagues. So that's pretty huge. I mean, talking this coming from somebody who didn't really play sports in school, like on a team.
Whatever, man. You played b-ball, man. You played basketball. We used to play it on the gym.
Well,
Remember
but
that?
like being on a team and having that kind of scheme, it's different. And
yeah. Well,
I don't know that I agree with a lot of people said, oh well, a lot of players aren't going to respect her because she didn't play in the NFL. She might have played in this league or that league, but they're below the NFL. I think that it shows a lot of determination on her part.
right.
And she's already been a coach, rather, it was for the indoor leagues or arena leagues, but she's already done it. And some people are calling it a publicity stunt. I don't think they need it.
It could
but
be.
They're a good team. They don't need it. But I mean, anything in the NFL is a publicity stunt, though.
Yeah, anything that happens in July, right.
So I don't think that it's that. I think it's going to be a good move, and the Cardinals are one of those teams that's always on the verge of doing something great. We haven't seen them really tear it up since Kurt Warner. We think that this might be the year that they do it, and then something happens. They've had a couple of seasons where their main quarterback is just out, and at the worst time possible. So
serious injuries.
I'm thinking that this is the year that they do something special, and who knows? This might have been the factor that pushes them into that contendership for the Lombardi Trophy.
It would be a great story, if that were to happen. And they have the tools there to do it. So wide receiver, if only their quarterback could stay healthy, an amazing defense that they got there. To me, one of the biggest stories this summer, we don't normally get to say this, but it was the Spurs in free agency making the biggest splash. And as free agency got started and as the Spurs had been eliminated, there was talks about LaMarcus Aldridge ending up in San Antonio. A lot of the times, the Spurs aren't even linked to any high-profile player, but this time they were linked to LaMarcus, and it was surprising that the story wouldn't go away. Normally, these stories come up here in San Antonio, and it's like they never were there because the Spurs either can't pursue them or won't, or something just didn't pan out and the player doesn't want to even come here. This time it was different, and I think Tim Duncan played his cards and put down his chips at the right moment and did it for the right guy. And amazingly so, on 4th of July, it was announced that LaMarcus Aldridge would sign with the San Antonio Spurs. So what an amazing 4th of July for San Antonio in kind of securing the future after Duncan is gone for at least a few more years after that. If LaMarcus decides to stick around, which if they have a good team around him, I don't see why not. After that, then they get David West. David West, who gave up like $10 million to come and play with Tim Duncan in his last years and with LaMarcus. So now you got yourself a great backup, some good bench, and then you got yourself an amazing starting lineup, as they were able to sign Danny Green back and also pay Kawhi Leonard what he's worth. So, you have Tony Parker, Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Tim Duncan. I don't see very many teams that are going to be able to challenge that lineup if it clicks like it's supposed to. The Clippers were the only ones that, once they got DeAndre Jordan back, they added a few more players. They added Paul Pierce, Lance Stevenson as well. So they got pretty deep as well. So those are my two teams, and I hate to leave the Oklahoma City Thunder out of it, because it is Kev and it is Russell, but I don't know, man. The Clippers and the Spurs just seem like they just left them in the dust.
Yeah, it was a good day for the Spurs, July 4th, but it was a dark day for the rest of the Southwest Division, because ultimately the toughest division, I think, in the NBA just got even tougher.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hell for the rest of the teams to keep up. And I'm worried for my Rockets because already we were neck and neck with the Spurs. You guys would usually get the upper hand and have had it for years now. And this last season, these last 2 or 3 seasons, we look to be at least on the same plane, maybe even on par with the Spurs. And after this signing, it looks very doubtful that we're even on that level anymore. Once again, you guys have completely amassed such a big pool of talent, and then of course you've got Popovich. I think Popovich could take rookies to the playoffs. It's gonna make for a hard season, especially a hard division, and it's already interesting to see what everybody's contract looks like at the end of this upcoming season. We're wondering about LeBron, and we're wondering about a lot of other players and where are they going to go.
And that's for an update.
Who's Kobe going to bring? And
right. LeBron has not
right at the
signed.
beginning.
LeBron hasn't signed yet.
The last thing I heard was that he was going to take a year off. Think about it.
Wow.
Now, what I don't know is if that includes, if that year off is him bowing out of the Cavs, or if I take a year off and then we'll come back and talk about year 2. I don't know what the circumstances are, but I will say this: the Cavs dropped the ball by keeping Kevin Love. I've said it for a while now that I really felt that he was overrated. There's a lot of better players that could have gotten, and a lot of people want to play with LeBron. It's not the same situation as with Kobe, where he's got that reputation and that demeanor where nobody wants to play with him. You know, LeBron can be who he is, and he's a player coach, and we all saw his antics with the coach, and you pointed out how disrespectful it was to kind of sit there and throw your coach under the bus, and I agreed with it. But he still doesn't have that aura about him that nobody wants to play with him. So he still has room to be able to bring people into the Cavs. So I don't know. I was thinking that Wade would be a good fit there,
and he's a free agent too. So I'm still with that. I think it's gonna be LeBron Wade again, because I don't think LeBron could do it without Wade.
No, and that was the hard pill to swallow for the playoffs and the championship. Was you and I had said it many times. He's proven he can't win a ring by himself. We've already seen that. We've seen it one too many times. Is he a monster player? Yeah, he plays every position, and look how many times he's gone to the finals now. We can't deny that. Now he's right up there in the elite class. I mean, how many players can say that they're on the same caliber as Michael Jordan, despite the fact that they've won only a third of the rings he got? You know, but LeBron James is that guy. So it's gonna be tough to figure out what's gonna happen with the NBA as far as who's gonna go where, and it's gonna be a treat for us, but it's also, I think, gonna leave a lot of people upset. I mean, clearly we already see a lot of Blazers fans upset that LaMarcus left, and certainly he's not the only guy that's looking to jump ship. And there's a lot of guys out there that are central to the teams that are looking to jump ship as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kevin is a free agent next year, Kevin Durant, and we'll see what he does, if he ends up there in Oklahoma City or goes to DC with the Wizards. So we'll see. The other one was the biggest fiasco that was going on within in La Copa Oro, with Mexico and first Costa Rica, and then one of the weirdest games I've ever witnessed, which was Mexico versus Panama, where it just seemed, I mean, to say it like it is, it seemed fixed, you know, and to the level of just blatant. There was no consideration of, let's try to disguise this somehow, some way, you know.
I did not watch the game against Costa Rica, where hashtag no es penal was trending, although for obviously different reasons than the last time we saw that hashtag. Obviously, the last time we saw it was during the World Cup, where the Netherlands was awarded a penalty kick that obviously wasn't deserved, and most everybody's in agreement that it wasn't deserved, and that knocked Mexico out of the World Cup and sent the Netherlands forward. This time around, it was a penalty kick for Mexico that many said was a gift, led them to advance to the next round. So the Panama game, after a while, I gotta say, it felt like I was watching wrestling, because there was so much violence on the field. Immediately from the get-go, the Panama players were being extremely rough and were committing a lot of falls, and they weren't called on it. Now, you know, I was getting mad, like, wait a minute, this guy just got thrown down, nothing happened. This guy got kicked and squashed down, nothing happened. So then, the controversy number one, a Panama player gets ejected in the first half of the game. I believe within the first 15 minutes he got ejected. And now Panama has to play one man down. So it's 9 on 10, obviously, because the goalies stay where they're supposed to be. And it was 0-0 up until the half. Next thing I know, I step away from the TV for about 15-20 minutes. You know, I had to go on a food run. And I come back, Mexico's down 1-0, and I'm thinking, oh no. Next thing I know, there's a big controversy over an incident that happened. Now, my interpretation of the rules in FIFA goes as follows. If you throw yourself onto the ball, you are interfering with the play of game, and depending on where you are, it is warranted for a penalty, and they were in the box. So I didn't think that was incorrectly awarded. I'm not going to dispute whether or not the game in Costa Rica was a problem, that penalty kick. I'm not going to say that Mexico's never been gifted, but this one here was not it. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. But at the end of it, the Panama player said, we're not playing, this is fixed, and they were making all sorts of obscene gestures to the referee, implying that he was bought and paid for.
They were leaving.
See, that ended up looking worse on them, because to me, if you really want to leave, you leave. You don't sit there, and I felt like I was watching teenagers, arguing with their parents. I'm going to leave, and you'll be sorry, and you'll come looking for me, and you won't find me. It looked like that. I understand. You feel like you're being cheated. I get it. It's a matter of personal pride as a player. It's a matter of national pride for your country. I get it. But you're representing your country there, and I felt it made you look petty. So, of course, Mexico takes the penalty kick. Now it's tied. And it ends up going into extra time. And another penalty was awarded for Mexico. And that one was a blatant foul. Anybody that argues that one, I don't know what you were watching. It definitely was a foul, and it warranted a penalty kick, and the game's pretty much over at that point. Yeah. Everybody's mad, and how everything's corrupt, and it hurts to watch it. It hurts to hear it, and then another thing, like watching that game, there is a difference between being a broadcaster and a journalist. I was watching the Spanish feed, and these guys were sitting there and saying that the head coach of Mexico needs to resign, and this is a sick display, and Mexico needs to apologize. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to sit here and say to our listeners that FIFA is completely not corrupt. We know that that's not the case. We've seen Sepp Blatter threaten, or say that he's going. He's still there, but he said he would go. We're waiting.
So I'll go.
It's been proven
in a year, though.
In a year, he'll go.
I'm resigning in a year.
Dictator style, We'll probably be talking about him like 3 years. Oh, didn't he say he was going to... Nah, he didn't say that.
Nah, man.
But it is what it is. It's a corrupt agency because there's no regulation for it. I'm not defending it. But there's one thing to be mad at FIFA. It's another thing to imply that a team is responsible for the fixing.
Yeah,
now, I don't recall.
No way.
I don't recall Mexico crying foul when they got knocked out of the World Cup, when they had been playing well. And the Gold Cup, it's a prestigious title, but it's not the World Cup. And I really liked the interview that Andres Guardado did for Fox after the game, where they asked him, what are your thoughts? And he said, well, we played lousy. It was a hard game. I'm not even going to pretend that we played well. We played terrible. And they said, well, what's your response to the issues with the penalties and everything? He said, look, this sport gives you rewards some days, and some days it takes things from you. And it's very easy to get upset about it, but that's the way it is. Some days you're given some days they take some from you. And they asked him, did you think about missing the penalty? And he said, I'm a human being. Of course I thought about it, But I went up to the players and told them, hey, you're doing your job. I need to do my job, because if we were on the other side of it, you might not even think about not taking the shot. You would do your job. This is us doing our job. I can't put it any better than that.
I was listening to it on the radio. It was mind-boggling to hear and then to see the post on Twitter and follow things, and he should miss it. Why would you tell a person not to do their job? It is not his fault where the game has ended up. The opportunity is there, and you're supposed to put it in. Let's remember that if he would miss that, he would probably never be called back to the Mexican squad. Yeah, it's a possibility that he would lose credibility with his team, and he plays in Holland and the Netherlands. So let's say that happened. I mean, you don't understand. These guys, man, soccer in the U.S., we take it very lightly. soccer is not taken lightly anywhere else but in the U.S. I mean, there's been players killed for something that they do. So why would you tell somebody not to do their job? I never understood that.
And see, I took offense to it, and I know I would hope that you took offense to it since you studied broadcasting at school. Where these guys, their job is to
Why
call
would
the
you
game.
ever say that?
I'm not trying to get your opinion. I'm not watching Fox Sports. I'm not watching some show after the game. I'm watching the game. I don't need your opinion. I don't want to know how you feel about the team or the players. I don't want to hear about how you're sickened as a national of Mexican heritage. I don't care. Call the game. If the game's not going on, give me some stats. Explain to me the rules. Nobody explained the rules. They argued about how wrong this was and how this was fixed, but they never once talked about the rules. And the rules state that if you throw yourself onto the ball with intent, you're interfering with the game. And the player in question went out of his way to throw himself onto the ball. How you can't see that he was blatantly, intentionally interfering with it is beyond me.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's a shame that we even have to talk about this, because after what the USA women's team did, I think it really helped to elevate the sport, because it got a huge black eye from the Sepp Blatter issue and all the arrests in Zurich. This helped a lot, and then as soon as we're just coming off the high, I mean, Carly Lloyd getting a hat trick. It's amazing.
In the final.
It's amazing. Shout out to Carly Lloyd, plays for the Houston Dash. Come on the show sometime, would be awesome.
I don't think she's going to be playing in Houston for a long time, though.
Probably not.
They're shipping her out.
Oh, yeah. No, she's getting her gravy train for sure. My point, what I'm getting at is the entire country was watching it. I didn't get to watch the game like I wanted to because I was doing a show, but even at some restaurant, people that normally watch NFL or baseball or basketball, they were watching this, and a lot of them didn't even understand what was going on. All they just saw the score.
But you're proud of your country and
you're proud
representing.
of your country. Of course.
Yeah.
And it did a lot.
And see, that's the thing. So you're proud of your country. You want to watch it. That's where I was at a loss when I was watching that Mexico-Panama game, because I wanted to be proud of Mexico, of the way they played, and I wasn't. I left with the sour taste in my mouth because we underestimated a team. We decided to play like they play, which is dirty. They were playing us dirty. We wanted to hit them back, and we didn't play our game. And we had and here's where it becomes this issue of, was it bought, was it fixed, whatever. Mexico had nothing to do with that. You look at what's going on. Jamaica had won the first game. They had beat the U.S. Tell me, and earlier that day, a couple hours before the game started, they said the final in Philadelphia, well, this was on Wednesday, the final in Philadelphia on a Sunday was already sold out. You look at what happened and you understand that there was no way it was going to be Panama versus Jamaica in the final. Who's going to go see that? That's how they thought. And so they made it, and they tried to help out. I mean, Mexico had 11 players to 10 for the longest time, for half a game. More than that. And they couldn't do it, man. They couldn't do it. So they had to do what they had to do in order to get Mexico. I'm not saying it's right, but this is how it looks. Because no one, they in their mind, in CONCACAF's mind, that they think that people are gonna go see Panama, Jamaica. Whose fault is that? Right. That is CONCACAF, because you just told the rest of your teams, I can't sell you. I can't sell you. What I can sell is the U.S. and Mexico. And let me tell you this one. There is no way in the world we're going to become better. The U.S. is not going to become better if it's always playing Mexico. Mexico's not going to become better if it's always playing the U.S. The reason why The reason why CONMEBOL is so successful is because they can sell 8 out of 10 teams. They can sell you. They don't have to sell you Brazil only. They can sell you Uruguay. They can sell you Argentina. They can sell you Colombia. They can sell you Chile, which won the Copa America. What CONCACAF said right there was, we cannot sell you Panama, Jamaica, no way. And they didn't. And they threw it in our face, telling us that. And all that tells us is that they don't want to build their product. They just want to ride the gravy train with Mexico versus the U.S.
and that's a shame
good.
too. This is the thing that I think for those of y'all that don't follow soccer, there's each country has its own respective leagues. Just like here in the United States, we've got the MLS. Then of course we've got the national team. Usually, a lot of these players that play for the national teams, that's not their full gig. Their primary gig is playing for local clubs. So, arguably, the best player in the world right now is Lionel Messi. He plays for Argentina, but he also plays in Spain. Many people, such as myself, criticize Lionel Messi because he plays his heart out when he's in Spain for his club, but when he plays for his country, he plays horrible.
Yeah.
There's teams, but see, that's the difference in the United States is, for the United States, this is as good as it gets. It is a national team. So these guys play their hearts out for their national team. It's a matter of pride. So how can you ask or expect these guys to be wearing their country's insignia, their flags, their colors, and miss on purpose? You wouldn't ask that of Landon Donovan. You wouldn't ask that of Clint Dempsey. You wouldn't ask LeBron James to miss a buzzer beater when he's wearing the Stars and Stripes and trying to win a medal for his country. You wouldn't ask of that.
Right.
And that hurt me as a Mexican. It also hurt me as a sports fan. And it also hurt me as somebody who's lived in this country for over 22 years. It hurt me that you can see the integrity of a sport be decimated like this. And it hurt because now the United States played such an awesome game and they came up short, but we weren't even talking about that. We were still talking about Mexico. And like I said at the beginning of this show, anytime that we discuss trivialities as opposed to discussing the sport itself, it cheapens it.
Right.
This would have been a great time for the United States to really capitalize on what happened. The Women's World Cup and
they did it.
This had been, and they did it, and they beat Japan, whom they nearly lost to 4 years ago, and we it should have been the sort of thing where that really elevates soccer, because I keep saying it and I've said it many times on this show. The MLS is getting stronger here. Now they signed Giovanni Dos Santos to the Galaxy. That's a huge acquisition.
Yeah.
They're on track to sign Chicharito to David Beckham's new team that's going to be starting play next year. We're getting a couple more acquisitions coming up. It's getting bigger. Therefore, the national team's going to get better because the play locally is going to get better. The only way that you can really have a national team, like you said, get better, it has to play the European teams. It has to play the Asian teams, the African teams, the South American teams. That's the only way. You have to increase your depth and the arsenal that you can deploy. The trend now is that you're only a good soccer player if you go to play in Europe. We need to change that, and we have the ability to do so, and we can't do it if all we keep doing is Mexico versus United States. You're right, it's no good for anybody.
Mexico right now is currently looking for a new head coach, as there's been some drama that unfolded with that, and we'll see where they end up. They got a playoff game coming up with the U.S. to make it to the Copa Confederaciones. That's going to be on October 9th. A sour taste was left of that Copa de Oro.
I will say a little bit of pride for the United States. Clint Dempsey, holy cow, just a scoring machine. That's a way to silence your critics.
Man.
We were talking in previous episodes how he'd been dragged through the mud for something that he did, and he's got a 2-year ban from a Champions Cup that involves the MLS teams and the other minor leagues under the umbrella of CONCACAF here in the United States. and he's been fined and penalized repeatedly for that one offense, and that's the way to do it. And he loses the captain's band. Jurgen takes it from him and gives it to Bradley and says, "Oh well, we need him to be focused on scoring." Whatever the case is, that's the way to do it. You know, all the people that were throwing Clint Dempsey around the mud, say something now. Top scorer in the Gold Cup, and
7.
The best teams to come out.
Yeah,
Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago. Those teams were on fire. Those teams played amazing.
Played awesome. I was really impressed with Trinidad and Tobago. I knew what Panama could do. The Reggae Boys of Jamaica, though, I was impressed too with them. Extremely disappointed with Costa Rica. Extremely disappointed after what they did last year in the World Cup. And not even to mention Honduras not even making it out of the group play. Those were the disappointments, but everybody else, man, it was on. It was great to see.
How about Cuba losing a player because he defected to the United States? And I feel for Cuba. Obviously, there's some warming up between the two countries, United States and Cuba, recently. But and soccer worldwide is the most political sport ever. Yeah. A lot of times it tends to have a political backdrop. So it was kind of a tense game because already the Cuban team had issues with getting visas for a lot of its players. So they came missing, I think, 10 players.
Yeah.
And there was talk that they didn't have adequate equipment. I'm talking shoes. I'm talking gear. And next thing you know, one of their top players defects. And I was like, oh, man, that's... Because if you're going to beat a team, you want to beat them at their best. You don't want a team that's battered and bruised. And that does nothing for your play, and it does nothing to elevate what you stand for in the tournament. So I felt really bad for them. It was hard to watch, and they got pummeled by all the teams they played with. It was hard to watch. Oh, well, I believe that's going to do it for this edition of the Rundown, this summer edition, I guess the Season 2 edition.
That'll do it for us for this week. We're happy to be back, and we're going to be back next week as well. Count on that. So follow us on Twitter, message us, let us know how you're doing, and also follow us on Facebook.
As always, the NFL season is gearing up, so get your jerseys ready, get your fantasy league started, and it's time to get back into the swing of it.
That's right, fantasy leagues, man. We're gonna get to that draft soon, man. I promise. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna register, man, because I'm gonna kick your ass. That's what I'm gonna do.
We'll see about that.
Well, you're just gonna have Tom Brady, so hopefully I play you in the first 5 weeks, and then
I'm not getting Tom Brady. When I picked him, he's gonna be 5 weeks out. But that is for next week.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Believe that. That's exactly what I'd say. I'd be like, dude, if you don't want me looking at your package, don't show it.